the Entrepreneur Resources Show. I'm very excited that you're here with me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Venice, your host, and here at your Entrepreneur Resources, we discover the no-fluff action steps to help you avoid all the overwhelm and all the BS out there, connecting you with the right mentors, resources, and tools, helping you every step of the way on your entrepreneurial journey. We go live here twice a week, interviewing different entrepreneurs and experts on all areas of business. So make sure to join our Facebook group and look out for the events inside your Entrepreneur Resources page. You can find all the links in the description box. Today, I have a very special guest with me. It is Seth Anderson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yay, awesome. Seth is a proud husband and father of two based in Canada. He has a podcast with his friend JP called Where They Interview Leaders and Entrepreneurs. The goal of the podcast is to inspire people through stories and insights shared by leaders across all industries. In this interview with Seth, we're going to be talking about starting a podcast, finding your why, getting great guests, social media strategies, and building a brand. Such a huge topic. I'm super excited to dive in. But before we do you mind sharing a little bit more about your business and your journey with us?
Yeah, for sure. So the Biz Dojo, we've been in operation now. We started as a podcast in October of last year. So we've been going for about 6 months. We're just actually finalizing the process of getting incorporated and officially becoming a business and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we've been going for about 6 months. We've done 2 seasons where we've interviewed over 25 guests. We've been growing, very, very humble beginnings. We started with 0 followers, 0 online platform whatsoever, and we're up over 500 followers between all of our different social media pages, and we're getting, I think we just passed 2,500 downloads, so that's been pretty exciting. And then we've found some, I would say, innovative ways to generate revenue. So my uncle roasts coffee, so we've got our own brand of coffee that we've been reselling, and we also work with
That's
my
awesome.
mom's business. Yeah, my mom has a business where she does laser engraving and custom work. So we've had her make us up some mugs, and you can see that sign in the background. We do some different custom stuff to kind of get our brand out there to people. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's super cool. And what is your background like? Because I know you've got an awesome team and you've got an incredible business going. So do you mind sharing a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'll take the short version of my story. So like I said, father of 2 and a husband. My wife actually also has a small business, and part of the inspiration for starting the Biz Dojo was kind of helping her along her journey in terms of starting up her business. So that was a lot of fun. But I have a corporate job by day. So by day, I support a team of about 150 people all across Canada as well as the Philippines. Doing dispatching for a large telecommunications company. So I've been doing that for a while now, and I've been on a real personal wellness journey, I would say, this last 2.5 years, where I've lost almost 100 pounds and just sort of completely re-engineered my life in every way, and really moved from what I would say was a fixed mindset, negative, very biased in my thinking, to just becoming much more open-minded and much more positive. And that has been leading to obviously a lot more personal health and wellness, but it's been unlocking a lot of doors on the business side, like I mentioned, helping my wife and also getting the Biz Dojo going.
Yeah, that's super incredible. I love your journey. I think it takes so much drive and lose so much weight and be healthy, and I love that journey. So let's talk about podcasting a little bit more. So why do you think entrepreneurs and business owners should consider starting a podcast? I think that's a really big question because there's so many podcasts out there right now. Why should anyone consider starting one?
So a couple of thoughts. I mean, one would be, you could play to the advantage of there are so many out there just by going on them. I think that's one way, right? If you don't want to totally invest in A, the time it takes, and B, maybe that's totally outside of your comfort zone, interviewing people, getting guests, like that is not easy stuff to do. So my first recommendation would be just go on a couple podcasts, because you can really share your story, share your brand. You can get out there because there's so many different avenues to do so. But if you do decide that it's the right thing for your company or your brand to have a podcast as part of your service offering or part of what you do, I think what I didn't realize when I was getting into the podcasting game was there's this. I thought it was further up the wave, right? Like I thought podcasting was, because there's so many out there. Like I thought the monetizing and the growth potential was sort of like at its peak. But in doing some research on it, it's expected to grow like 3-4 times over the next few years. So the market's really just kind of it's a nice point to enter the market, I think. And then you see what's happening right now, just even in the last couple of weeks, with what Apple and Spotify have both announced with their premium content, being able to curate or have premium content that you can offer through the major platforms for podcasters, I think is going to be a big thing for the industry. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on. And I think, if I were to have a third point, it's really an awesome way to just be able to share your story, and you can kind of curate it and create whatever you want. And I think that's just exciting for if you're a creative person, if you have a creative business, if you really want to tell the story of your brand and why you do what you do, it's a great platform to utilize.
Yeah, definitely. I think podcasting is one thing that people think is saturated, but there's still a lot of opportunities out there. And like you said, you can always, go out there. Besides getting on people's podcasts, do you have any other tips for people that are like, okay, I'm kind of convinced, but what are the next steps I need to take to be able to start my own podcast? Do you have any tips or strategies regarding that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people that I've talked to get wrapped up in the technical side of things. What kind of microphone do I need? What kind of software do I
That's
need?
so true.
And there's a lot of really easy to use stuff out there. And so I think I went to Best Buy and I bought a Blue Yeti microphone for $100. And I think that's the only thing I've actually purchased to date. And then with JP, I was lucky. I had a friend who had been in radio before, and odds are, like, you probably know someone in your network that has been in radio or who has audio software recording. So that was the easiest way for me to get into the industry. Was I had a friend who knew the audio software side of things. The extra advantage I had there is he's also really good at editing, producing, and that kind of thing. You're not necessarily going to have that day one, but I don't know if you actually need that. If you get a mic and you have a good idea and you've got a couple cool people that you can talk to kind of get your feet underneath you, that's what I would say is just go for it. If you overthink it, if you try to get it perfect, if you try to make all the stars align before you start, you may never start. So if you have an idea, something you're really passionate about, something you want to share with the world, or if you just really know some really cool people that you want to get on the mic and just share their story or whatever your motivation is, just getting started is what I would say is for the first step. Just jump in.
100%. It's so easy to get overwhelmed with all the technology, all the podcast hosting websites, all the different things to film or record, like, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 episodes before you even consider pressing the publish button. And sometimes it's just, important to just start. You talked about finding your why previously when it comes to the topic of this episode. And I'm very interested to hear why you think it's important to find your why, and how should entrepreneurs or business owners find the why to kind of drive their podcast.
I think initially, I would say the why with this and why we keep doing it, like it evolves over time. And, it really just has to make sense to you. So when we first started this, why did we do it? Well, we wanted something to do during COVID because there wasn't really much else to do. So that was the first why. We need something to fill our time that's going to be productive. We've always wanted to do this. So that it was I don't know if it's selfish motivation or intrinsically, we were motivated. It was a passion project. And I think that came out in the content. Like we wanted to try something. We wanted to get outside of our comfort zones, and we wanted to do it in a way that brought some value to the world. So as we went along, we started to think about, who is this for? Why would we get a certain type of guest? So that's what I mean in terms of the why has evolved. But it really started with, we were passionate about leadership. We were passionate about broadcasting or podcasting or whatever the word is. And we didn't get into it thinking, I want to make $1 million. I want to be the next Joe Rogan. I want to quit my day job and just be like, we didn't get into it with any of those motivations. It was like, we really love this medium. We think it's cool. We want to create, and this is a great way to do so. And then I think because we got into it from that lens of passion and intrinsic motivation, it's helped us kind of, as we've moved forward, our why is evolving. We're getting a little more targeted in terms of who it's for. Why should you listen to this? Well, if you want to be, if you'd like to hear an inspiring story from someone who has led a big team or started their own business or been in a rock and roll band and toured the world or been a professional athlete, we've created a space that, you can come and hear those stories, and maybe they'll inspire you to do whatever your version of that is. So I think that's what we've landed on now in terms of why we keep doing it, is the hope that we can, create a space for these amazing people to share their story and hopefully inspire somebody to go on their own version of whatever their story is.
Yeah, that's so incredible. I think it's such a good mission as well. Like, just bringing out like different strategies or different tips that other people have to share and sharing their journey, so your audience can learn from the, experience themselves, like through the listening to the stories of other people. And how do you get these people onto your podcast? Because I know that when it comes to booking guests, it's a whole other topic, I'm sure. But how do you find these guests, and, how do they find you?
Yeah, it's interesting because in the first season, it was almost entirely friends and family, right? We, part of, again, when we were figuring out like, what are we going to do here? We're like, oh, we know all these cool people. Let's just get them on and share their stories. And at some point you run out of people in your network. So you got to kind of start to get creative. So I'm always on the lookout, whether it's on LinkedIn, I would say LinkedIn and Instagram, especially. If somebody posts something interesting, if somebody shares something that indicates they've got something about their story, something about a business they just started, JP and I are just always on the look for someone that has a story to tell. And honestly, of the 10 people we may reach out to, we may only get, 1 to 3 people that, say something back or engage with us. So you got to be prepared for, I saw a quote the other day that yes lives in the land of the no. And so you got to be prepared that, you're going to get no, you're going to get ignored. People aren't going to reach out. But, and I've never been a cold call person. Like that's so far out of my comfort zone, but I just see a story, or even in some cases I've gone into a business and I've been like, this is really cool. I want to have this person on the podcast. So some of it's just been like intuition guiding me. And then that's just opened up the opportunities. So now, we've won a couple of awards, which is pretty cool. I don't think I ever expected that. We won an AVA Digital Award. Yeah, an AVA Digital Award and a Hermes Creative Award for podcasting. And so, there's some credibility now that we're not just some fly-by-night, podcast out of nowhere. We've got a pretty reputable website that people can go to. And we've had some very legitimate guests. We've had multiple CEOs, like I said, professional athletes, people who have been in bands that have been like Grammy nominated. So, we've had some pretty legit guests. And I think now that's starting to attract people. Be like, we actually had a publicist reach out the other day and say, hey, I got a couple of authors. Would you like to have them on the show? I don't think we were ever expecting that. So, but it's largely like, if I could give advice, is just getting out of your comfort zone and looking for interesting people. That's largely been what we've done.
Yeah, and sometimes instead of thinking that, oh yeah, like that person is so out of my reach, just go and reach out to them. You would be surprised how not easy per se, but how possible it is to get someone to come onto your podcast and talk about their experience because they love giving too, right? So yeah,
That's one of
can
the
I ask
beautiful
you
parts.
who's someone?
Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
is there someone that the interview just blew your mind? I'm just so curious to hear like your experience and like a crazy like whoa like mind blow moment.
There's been a few. One would be we had this gentleman on the show, Walter Vandervelde. He's got an amazing TED talk about the future skills in the workplace, and I love this TED talk. It just hit me right in the soul, and so I just messaged him on LinkedIn and I said, "Hey man, I love your talk. Would you come on the pod?" And he answered, and I was like, "Holy!" Like I was not expecting that. And so he came on the pod, and he lives in Brussels. So we're just this little podcast in Canada with like a little local following, and all of a sudden we're coordinating an interview with this TED Talk speaker in Brussels, Germany, or Belgium, I guess. And he came on the show, and he was amazing. And about halfway through, we're talking about his journey, and he just drops this story about he had started a business. His brother had invested in that business. It didn't work out. He ended up getting pushed out of the business that he started by his brother. And then his dad had asked them to reconcile, like, okay, like a few years later, like get together, figure it out. And so Walter had started the process of getting a mediator to work things out. And the day of the meeting or the day before the meeting or whatever, his brother died of a heart attack on a bicycle. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, and just like was not expecting that story when we got into the pod. And it was so deep and powerful and moving. And then it ended up transitioning into him sharing like his top 4 values that he lives by. And it was just this really beautiful sort of conversation that I never would have expected. So like the whole process of discovering him, getting him on the pod, and then like even in the pod, just being like mind blown. It was that was a really cool one.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that you just reach. You're like you have impact my life with that talk, and now I want you to come on my podcast. And he said yes. And again, it's putting yourself out there and just stepping out of your doing the thing that might scare you a little bit, but the reward is obviously incredible. You talked a little bit previously about like your social media, your how you have grown an audience there and following there. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about how you like any social media strategy tips you have regarding putting your podcast out there?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, and we've done research. We've looked up SEO stuff. We've gone to the different. You should post every day. Like we've tried a lot of stuff, and some of it has worked, some of it has not. We've found a pretty good method where we release a show every Tuesday. So we'll do. We use Canva for all of our Instagram, all of our
Love Canva.
link. Yeah, that makes it really easy because you get the templates. It's like $100 a year for the membership. That's been worth every penny, just because you get all those ready-made templates that you can just sort of bang off whatever it is you want to do. And so what we try to do is we've got a pretty good system now where we'll post a picture of the guest with a quote from the interview and just sort of introduce them with a little blurb and say, here's what's coming on Tuesday. Then Tuesday we'll pull a little clip of the show and we'll do a similar, like, here's a little bit more about the interview. And then we'll do like a, in case you missed it, post at the end of the week. And then I think people have come to expect the consistency. We post them sort of similar time, same day, similar format. So people are starting to know what to expect. We use snappy visuals. We keep it tight to make it too wordy, just something that's digestible that gets the spirit across. We try to find good, we try to hit them in 3 ways. So there's a visual with a quote, a video with a quote, And then we also do just an audio quote. So it's kind of like that 7 different ways type messaging, to just because each one will hit a little bit different. And some weeks it's worked amazingly. Some weeks maybe it hasn't. But we're learning as we go. I've also reached out to some people to try and like learn the algorithms of some of the sites. The trickiest one I've found is LinkedIn, but that's a big demographic for us because we're a business podcast. We have entrepreneurs, we have leaders, so we've had a couple posts on LinkedIn that have, gotten like 2,000 engagements, but then we have some that get like one. So what, a couple of things we learned on that is the LinkedIn algorithm does not like if you put a external link in the post. So if you post your website in the body of the post, it doesn't like that and it deprioritizes it. So we started putting that into the comments. Another like common tactic you see on LinkedIn is like you'll tag a whole bunch of people. It doesn't like that either. Because if you tag them and then they don't respond to it, they just think it's spam and it gets deprioritized. So we started being a lot more strategic and just maybe tagging 1 or 2 people who we're pretty confident are going to like or share it. Because once they like or share it, it'll expand to their network, which opens up more visibility for you. And then if we aren't sure, but we want to kind of tag it for someone, again, we'll tag it in the comments because that doesn't go against you. So we've been kind of learning these different things and just trying our goal is to inspire people. Our goal is to take our guest story and get it out to as many people who are interested in it as possible. So that's the motivation. We don't get paid anything for the podcast. We don't get any extra benefit. It's purely like, how do we share this amazing story about this person with as many people as possible? Because some of this stuff has been so inspiring for us. Like I've got a book of notes that I've taken and just getting to know and talk to these people. And so we're just trying to figure out how do we get it to as many people as we can.
Yeah, I think that's such a great mission. Again, I think I've said this before, but the fact that you're just doing all of this, to get the inspirational stories, like get people inspired, get people talking and thinking. I think that's, the core value of your podcast, and everyone should have their own core, drive to build their podcast. And that's really important because like no matter what kind of brand you have, if you don't have that like vision, you don't have that motivation that brings you like forward, moves you along your journey, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Totally.
Yeah, and for your brand, like I know that you have your own graphics that you post, and you've got your schedule, you've got your social media. How do you make sure that it is like a memorable brand? Like how do you make sure that people will go, oh, this is a podcast that I'm going to listen to? Do you have any tips to kind of drive those fans?
So I think most of that type of work happens off the social media platforms, if you will. Like if you ask anybody in my network, even in my day job or my family, like I live and breathe it. I'm wearing a hoodie or a shirt. I'm talking about it. I'm telling people about the next guest we have coming up. And so it's like social media is great. I love it because we're able to share things out. But the best conversations and the real buy-in, not buy-in, but the passion comes through in the one-on-one conversations, I think. So where you've got people texting being like, oh, I love that guest, or, oh, have you thought about bringing this to the show? Or I think that's where the real engagement has been for me anyway. And where I, sort of fill my cup is in those one-on-one conversations. But with that, we've met some amazing people through social media. So, one sort of begets the other if you use it properly. Like people have been attracted to our visuals, attracted to, like we try to be very visual appealing. We try to be very simple, and we try to like really like humanize leadership. I don't know how else to say that. There's sometimes a stigma around being a leader, or there's this like, I don't know, like it's this unachievable thing. It's like bigger than us as people. But what we try to show is leadership knows no bounds. It's in how you approach your day to day. It's in how you treat people, and it's in the actions you take or you don't take. And it goes across all industries. So one of the excited things that we are to share is like, whether you're the CEO of a large for-profit, large nonprofit, athlete, tarot card coach, all these different walks of life we've had on, the only way you get to, the top of success is by following your passions, surrounding yourself with great people, and ultimately showing up every day. And that's leadership. That's, at least in our estimation, what we see the common thread between all of these different people. Is that passion, that drive to continuously improve, to make the people around you better. So that I don't know if that totally answers your question, but I kind of got on a bit of a rant there. But that's what fuels us, I would say.
Yeah, I mean that there's a mic drop. Thank you for sharing all the nuggets and all the tips. I love that you brought up, the personal connection and the personal conversation that's off the platforms, because it's all about building relationship at the end of the day, right? Like, no matter how small or massive your audience is, that one-on-one experience that you bring your audience on your journey and just bring them to understand more about your brand and feel like they can talk to you is so powerful. So definitely, like, I completely agree. I know we have to start wrapping up, unfortunately, but I know you have a special gift for us. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we recently added another service offering to our website. So like I said, we've been doing the coffee and stuff for a while, which I will actually, I didn't throw that in at the hop, but if you reach out to us, DM us on Instagram at Biz Dojo Podcast or at Seth Ans, we've got free coffee samplers. We'd be happy to send out your way. But on top of that, we recently have ventured into coaching and offering personal coaching. So if you're interested, you can head to our website, thebizdojo.com. And there's a tab right in there for coaching and consulting, and we're happy to do a free session with anybody who's interested.
Yay, awesome. That sounds great. And if people want to connect with you, where can they find out more about your podcast and follow you on social media?
Yeah, so we're on our main platforms we use are Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So if you type in The Biz Dojo on LinkedIn or Facebook, that'll take you to us. We're at Biz Dojo Podcast on Instagram, or you can follow me as well. I tend to selflessly promote the podcast quite a bit at Seth Ans, ANDS. And yeah, we're happy to connect. We're happy to take your ideas for the show. We're happy to, if you know a great guest, someone who's got an amazing story and leadership, we love to have people on. So, and we recently started a YouTube channel. So you can also check us out there, the Biz Dojo.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I'll make sure to put everything in the description box. So check them out and go follow Seth. Thank you again so much for being on your Entrepreneur Resources show. For entrepreneur that's listening, in case you want to get a summary of the interview, make sure to check out our show notes, which I'll link also in the description box. We have our live interviews with experts here twice a week. So make sure to stay tuned and join our community on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll chat with you very soon.